powerful act of resistance and resilience, the people of Florida are taking matters into their own hands. Despite attempts to erase and distort Black history, communities across the state are coming together to ensure that stories, struggles, and triumphs of Black Americans are preserved and passed down to the next generation. Hello viewers, and welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, then don't forget to subscribe. Tap the notification bell so that you don't have to miss on any of our interesting videos, and be part of the commenter squad by sharing your thoughts in the comment section down below. Now, in this remarkable video, I will take you to the front lines of this movement, where students are giving up their Saturdays to learn the Black history that their schools won't teach them. Now, in this video, I will introduce you to Faith in Florida, an organization that has developed its own African American history curriculum, now being taught in over 400 congregations across the state. Now, this is more than just a response to the erasure of Black history. It is a testament to the power of community, the importance of self-education, and the unwavering commitment to preserving the truth. So with that said, let's take a look at these videos as different people share their thoughts on this development. I will be right back.
We have some really big news right now. Florida students are giving up their Saturdays to learn Black history that their schools will not teach them. Faith in Florida, an organization in Florida, has now developed its own African American history curriculum. And more than 400 congregations in the state are teaching this curriculum to students on the weekends, essentially, because they don't trust that Florida schools will properly teach African American history in the classroom. By the state's own metrics, only 12 schools in the entire state have demonstrated an excellence in teaching Black history. So now students are taking it into their own hands to learn about Black history on their own on the weekends. No, they're not going out with friends, they're not playing sports, they're learning. All because the Florida curriculum in Florida schools have just done a bad job. And we know there's been an attack on teaching African American history for a very long time, especially in red states like Florida. So shout out to Faith in Florida for the work that they're doing. Feel free to go to read the full article about this from the Associated Press on their website. And as always, follow along for all the news you need to know about.
So there's this article going around about Black students in the state of Florida giving up their Saturdays in order to learn Black history. And I have some thoughts. Before I begin, I just want to say that this is dope. I applaud the students, I applaud the teachers, I applaud the families, I applaud the community, I applaud the facilitators, I applaud the organizers. I applaud everybody who has anything to do with this project and its success. It does not surprise me that Black people will find a way, will shift a way, will make a way, even when there appears to be no way. It does not surprise me that Black people will apply extra effort in order to make sure that our stories are told, our histories are respected and remembered. None of that surprises me. What frustrates me, though, is that we have to. It frustrates me that we still, in the year of our Lord 2024, have to fight just to tell our stories. That there was a point in this nation where enslaved Black folks weren't even allowed to learn to read. Fast forward to not so long later, and we're still having to fight to just be able to tell our own history. Like, what does it say about the people who are restricting this history? That they are way more comfortable restricting this history because their feelings get hurt when they listen to it. What fragile human beings. Rather than, I don't know, taking the lessons of history and progressing our culture forward, our society forward, they get upset because they see their grandmamas and grandpappies in the pictures. They get upset because they are no longer centered in these stories and these narratives. Because, newsflash, other people exist. And you can't call yourself the land of the free when you literally capitalize off of the enslavement of other people, off of human trafficking, off of normalized SA and routine dehumanization. Sorry if that hurts your little fragile, frosty feelings, but it's the truth. If we get to the bottom of it, these same folks who are blocking our history from being taught in schools aren't worried about Black people learning it. It's one thing to have those people out there that you don't even really see as people talk about what happened to them. It's a whole different thing when it's one of your kids, one of your grandkids, your niece, your nephew. Now they're looking at you funny because your pappy was in one of these pictures, because the way you told the story isn't the truth, isn't factual, and dismisses the humanity of an entire people. So they're not worried about us learning and talking about our own history. They're worried about their own kids. So I would encourage any parent, any non-Black parent who sees programs like this popping up, if you can, financially contribute to them, but also enroll your kid in them. Why should it only be Black kids learning about Black history? Share with the rest of your community, especially if you're so outraged to make a blue bracelet. Take that outrage over these educational programs and fund them. Support them. Put your kids in them. It's not enough to wear your advocacy. You have to actually advocate.
As I'm sure we all know, the state of Florida is very anti critical race theory. Although the education, to me, that's in the public school system isn't necessarily critical race theory, we all know that, especially the governor, DeSantis, has an agenda to not teach Black history in certain aspects. So it's a lot of people in Florida through an organization called, if I'm not mistaken, Faith in Florida, to where they've gotten a lot of students to commit their Saturdays to specific curriculum around learning Black history. Now, for me personally, I don't get into the whole schools teaching Black history, all this and that, because at the end of the day, your parents can teach or tell you certain things that they find to be truthful and valuable that the school doesn't. So when it comes to this organization in Florida and these parents and these students committing themselves to this, it's not that I'm so excited that they're learning this specific Black history. I'm more excited and impressed with taking the initiative to learn something that these people find valuable, period. That's the American way. You don't sit and wait for people to do something that you find valuable. You go and figure it out for yourselves. So for that, I salute these people in Florida who are doing something about what they think is not necessarily wrong, but what they find valuable. And they're putting some boots on the ground and actually getting up and doing something about it. I'm always going to support that.
Y'all, happy holidays. On this Christmas Eve, I want to take time to shout out an organization called Faith in Florida. Faith in Florida apparently is a group of churches that have taken it upon themselves to offer Saturday school curriculum to teach Florida students African American history, because African American history is being removed from Florida school curriculums. They're doing it on Saturday, and kids are coming out on Saturday to learn about African American history. This is the type of resilience, and this is the type of innovative thinking. These are the reasons why African Americans will be just fine over the course of these 4 years. Some other folks won't, but African Americans will make it through. You'll see.
Now, buried among Florida's manicured golf courses and sprawling suburbs are the artifacts of its slave-holding past, the long-lost cemeteries of enslaved people, the statues of Confederate soldiers that still stand watch over town squares, the old plantations turned into modern subdivisions that bear the same name, but many students aren't learning that kind of Black history in Florida classrooms. Now, in an old wooden bungalow in Delray Beach, Charlene Farrington and her staff gather groups of teenagers on Saturday mornings to teach them lessons. Now, she worries that public schools won't provide. They talk about South Florida's Caribbean roots, the state's darkest history of unalivings, how segregation still shapes the landscape, and how grassroots activists mobilize the civil rights movement to upend generations of oppression. You need to know how it happened before so you can decide how you want it to happen again, she told her students as they sat at their desks, the morning light illuminating historic photographs on the walls. Now, Florida students are giving up their Saturday mornings to learn about African American history at the Spedy Cultural Heritage Museum in Delray Beach and in similar programs at community centers across the state. Many are supported by Black churches, which for generations have helped forge the cultural and political identity of their parishioners. Now, since Faith in Florida developed its own Black History Toolkit last year, more than 400 congregations have pledged to teach the lessons, the advocacy group says. Florida has required public schools to teach African American history for the past 30 years, but many families no longer trust the state's education system to adequately address the subject. Now, by the state's own metrics, just a dozen Florida school districts have demonstrated excellence of teaching Black history by providing evidence that they are incorporating the content into lessons throughout the school year and getting buy-in from the school board and community partners. School district officials across Florida told the Associated Press that they are still following the state mandate to teach about the experience of enslavement, abolition, and the vital contributions of African Americans to build and strengthen American society. But a common complaint from students and parents is that the instruction seems limited to heroic figures such as the Rev. Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and rarely extends beyond each February's Black History Month. Now, when Celaya Williams' eldest child started school, she couldn't find the comprehensive instruction she wanted for him in their area. So in 2016, she launched her own organization to teach Black history in community community settings. We wanted to make sure that our children knew our stories to be able to pass down to their children, Williams said. Now, Williams now has a contract to teach Saturday schools at a public library in Fort Lauderdale, and her 12-year-old daughter, Ada Godin, invites her classmates to join her. It feels like I'm really learning my culture, like I'm learning what my ancestors did, Ada said, and most people don't know what they did. Now, state lawmakers unanimously approved the African American history requirement in 1994 at a time of atonement over Florida's history. Historians commissioned by the state had published an official report on the unaliving attack on the town of Rosewood in 1923, when a Pamkala mob razed the majority black community and drove out its residents. When the Florida legislature approved financial compensation for Rosewood survivors and descendants in 1994, it was seen as a national model for reparations. Now, there was a moment of enlightenment in Florida those decades ago. There really was, said Marvin Dunn, who has authored multiple books on Black Floridians, but that was short-lived. Now, 3 decades later, the teaching of African American history remains inconsistent across Florida classrooms, inadequate in the eyes of some advocates, and is under fire by the administration of Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, who has championed efforts to restrict how race, history, and discrimination can be talked about in the state's public schools. Now, DeSantis has laid attacks on wokeness in education that rallied conservatives nationwide, including President-elect Donald Trump. In 2022, the governor signed a law restricting certain race-based conversations in schools and businesses and prohibits teaching that members of one ethnic group should feel guilt or bear responsibility for actions taken by previous generations. Last year, DeSantis' administration blocked a new advanced placement course on African American studies from being taught in Florida, saying it violates state law and is historically inaccurate. Now, a spokesperson for the College Board, which oversees advanced placement courses, told the AP they're not aware of any public schools in Florida currently offering the African American Studies class. It's also not listed in the state's current course directory. Now, representatives for the Florida Department of Education and the state's African American History Task Force did not respond to the AP's request for comment. People who are interested in advancing African diaspora history can't rely on schools to do that, said Tameka Bradley Hobbs, manager of Broward County's African American Research Library and Cultural Center. I think it's even more clear now that there needs to be a level of self-reliance and self-determination when it comes to passing on the history and heritage of our ancestors. Now, in a state where the erasure of Black history has been a pressing concern, I feel this is a breath of fresh air. Faith in Florida and the numerous congregations involved deserve immense praise for taking proactive steps to ensure that African American history is preserved and passed down to future generations. Their dedication to developing and teaching a comprehensive African American history curriculum is a testament to the power of community-driven initiatives. By doing so, they're providing students with a rich understanding of Black history, one that goes beyond the superficial narratives often presented in mainstream education. And this move is not only a celebration of Black culture and resilience, but also a necessary response to the systemic erasure of Black history. It is indeed a reminder that the stories, struggles, and triumphs of African Americans are an integral part of the American narrative, deserving of recognition and respect. We have finally come to the end of the video, but what do you, our viewers, have to say? Share your thoughts in the comment section. Thank you for always watching and see you in our next video.